Hello, 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 my podcast people, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of my favorite podcast. Today we are talking about considering your capacity, or as I'm calling it, framing it, capacity consideration. If you're listening to this or watching it on the day that it drops, it is Monday, July 8th. Happy Monday, July 8th. First off, before we jump in, let's do some life updates, some biz updates, and then we'll get into the good stuff. So, as it relates to life, it is summer, which means summer is summering. Things are great. It's just the best in my humble opinion. Lex and I are playing in a reverse co-ed fours tournament this weekend, or this upcoming Friday. For those of you who don't know, reverse co-ed means that there has to be at least one man on the court, or one male on the court. Usually there has to be at least one female on the court. Reverse co-ed means it's women's net. They are the ones that are swinging, they're hitting, and the men typically cannot block, they cannot swing. They're usually just playing defense. And setting, which is what we're going to have our guy doing. And that guy is Jill's boyfriend. So that's really exciting. Not going to lie, largely the main reason that we're doing this tournament is because I love my coach, Steven, and he always puts on these, he calls them hooky tournaments because you play hooky from work. It's a Friday. And you have the tournament. I actually have no desire to really play in a tournament, nor do I really like anything other than twos. But this is four, so four people on each side of the court. But he was talking about it, and I was just like, listen, I don't like playing co-ed. I don't like playing the men's net. It's not that fun. And he was like, all right, we'll do a reverse co-ed. And then I was like, oh, I guess I have to sign up then. So he did it. We've signed up. Fun fact, our team is going to be Notorious DIG. Funny. I love it. I did some Googling and I was like, oh, that's a fun name. So we have a little uniforms we're going to wear. And I got us some jewelry, fake jewelry. It's supposed to be Notorious B.I.G., right? And have a little crown. So it'll be good. But I'll let you know how that goes. Speaking of volleyball, I basically whiplashed myself yesterday. So I'm going to see my girl Karen today. I definitely got to bring her on the podcast. She's just phenomenal in all regards, but she's doing business differently and doing business in what I consider to be such a fucking phenomenal way. But I'm going to go see her. So if you're watching the video and you're like, why do you look like that? It's because my neck is whiplashed. So it happens sometimes when you dive. And that happened yesterday. What else? Life updates. Lex and I are heading home in 2 weeks to my family for our Thanksgiving in July, which I'm really excited about. I was really just talking to I'm pointing you can see, but I was texting with them on the computer on my second screen. So that's what I'm pointing at if you're watching. I was just texting in the group chat and we're just fighting over House of Dragon and whether or not Daemon actually wants to be king. I do think he wants the power of it. My youngest brother Daniel's he doesn't want to be king. And I'm like, yes. And he wants the power. And the only way that you're going to get that power is by being king. He doesn't want the responsibility. No, but the power he wants. But either way, if you're watching that show, it sucks. I said what I said. Nothing is happening, but we do argue about it. And so I'm excited to go home and see all of them. So yeah, there's that. I'll let you know how that goes after that goes. Last update, the free training that I ran last week, Foundations and Fundamentals for Starting an Online Business, was fucking amazing. If you were there, showed up, thank you. It was just so much fun. We had over 500 people registered. I think the highest I saw on the screen at any point was 92 people. Little business lesson here. Typically, when it's something free, we're anticipating typically max of 25% of an actual show up rate. This was about 18%. So that's pretty standard. I'm fine with that. I didn't push it a ton. I was just if you want to show up, show up. I didn't do a zillion reminders. I did a handful of reminders and things like that, but it wasn't anything crazy. I also realized that it was the night of the presidential debate. Lord save us all. That's all I'm going to say about that. But about 90 people show up, and there's a lot of people that watch the replay, which is amazing to me because Lord knows I'm not watching any replays. But I've had people messaging me being I watched the replay. I felt like I was laughing the whole time, and I was like, this is great. So if you watch the replay, thank you. Definitely let me know. DM me. I love it. And I will probably ask if I can use that as a screenshot as a testimonial, just because it's amazing that you can watch a replay and still get so much out of it. Funny thing here. I didn't hit record. So I was not feeling well that day. Lex really came through big time for me. I went and got a haircut, and I was literally I thought I was going to pass out. I was not feeling well. I went to sleep after the haircut. I woke up at 1 p.m. and I made the slides for a 4 p.m. presentation. And Lex has really helped out with just making me feel better and taking care of me and holding it down. But all that to say, when I went to go run it, I was just still getting my head bit on, and I was like, we're in game mode, here we go. But I usually play music. I have split screen or dual screen setup going. I was also sharing screen because I have slides. And so what happens with that is like the Zoom little bar, like it disappears. And so I knew that I needed to hit record because I do auto record, but I paused it because I had like the little intro thing. And I should just let it go, honestly, instead of pausing it, but I didn't. And then I forgot to hit record and start it. So I went through the whole entire presentation, and then I stopped the screen share when it was time for the Q&A portion, and then I could see the little recording thing wasn't recording, and I was like, okay, great. It happens, folks. It will not happen again. Typically, it just has to happen once, and it happened once when I first started doing the intensive, but it was a completely different screen setup, and that ended up happening because I just didn't hit record. I've remedied that since, but now with the split screen and all the other stuff, there's a new issue. It will never happen again. But I went and re-recorded it afterwards. I took a breath. I joked about it. When the people on the call knew, I was like, wow, didn't record. I started recording the Q&A section, but it happens. And so I took a breath. I think it might have actually been better. Like, I tend to go on some tangents when I have it running live, and I did ask people to put their questions at the end, and so it wasn't a bunch of back and forth, but I do go on some tangents because I do like to acknowledge the people that are there and like have conversations with them. So I re-recorded it afterwards, it just straight through, and so I think it might have been a little bit, I'll also say quote unquote better in that regard, a little bit less dynamic of me, but it's still like, I'm a fucking professional. I have taught to a room of no one before. When you do recordings for some of these online courses, the in-person online courses, the online courses that you record live in person, sometimes there's an audience and sometimes there's not. And like when I was working for Rock Tape, and I've done it before where there's no one in the audience, and you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that I'm talking into a room of empty people. So basically did that again. But that's a great segue for today's topic, which is considering your capacity. So I knew that I had the capacity to go and re-record it afterwards. I was just like, it's fine. I can do it. It's top of mind. I took a little break, talked to Lex, talked to Moose, and then came back in and just banged it out. But what we're going to talk about today, one of the things that I talk about the most as it relates to the number one benefit to self-employment is time flexibility. All right, so I got to choose when I ran the webinar. I got to choose, the day. I got to choose what my day looked like, right? I strategically scheduled less calls that day. So I do think that time freedom is a misnomer because your time is spoken for. Like, I still had to deliver the thing. I still had to do the things, right? I'm running a business. I still got to do shit. Those clients that I didn't see on Thursday, I had to see on a different day, right? But when you are self-employed, you have the time flexibility to determine when you do things, right? And also where you do things, which for some people they consider a negative because they feel like they can always be working, like irrespective of geographical location, even on their vacation, whatever. But the main thing is that time flexibility is what we are afforded by having, our own business. I think that a big part of this time flexibility is what I'm calling capacity consideration. A little side note here, if you need help coming up with words, use ChatGPT. Sometimes I need this where I'm like, I have a word that I want, but I know that the thing I'm saying is not an actual word. And you can say that or type it. You can type it into ChatGPT or you can actually speak it into ChatGPT. I do it on the phone. And I can be like, I want it to mean this. I know that this thing I'm saying is not an actual word, but can you give me a list of 5 words that convey this sentiment, that mean this in this scenario or in this, I'm trying to think of a word right now. I should use ChatGPT. But when you're like, I know the sentence that I want, I know what I want it to mean, I know what I want it to sound like, I know what I want it to convey. I know the context, that's what it is, the context. You can say all of that and it'll give you a list of words. And so from that's where I came up with capacity consideration. All right, so I actually wrote about capacity consideration to my mafia. So if you're my mafia and you're listening to this or watching this, as always, thank you for giving me the time and the space to organize my brain. But capacity consideration, it means exactly what it says, right? You have the ability to consider your capacity. In this case, as it relates to work. When you work for somebody else, they tell you how much you need to work. They tell you how long your shift is, when you can fucking go on break, what your quota is, right? Irrespective of what your individual capacity is. I think back to when I was a staff physical therapist, I was seeing sometimes 24 patients in a 10-hour day. That's crazy. Right? One of our dope mafiosos recently asked, I think last week, they asked, how many clients do you consider to be full? How many clients do you have to see? And you're like, okay, my schedule is full. How many clients would you schedule in a day? And so 3 things from this. Number 1, the response is They varied, right? Because we know capacity is subjective and individual. Second thing here, the numbers that were thrown out there were way less than what a traditional job would have you do. Like 6 at kind of like the max there. Meanwhile, I'm seeing 24 people. Some of us are seeing 10 people or 12 people, depending on how long the sessions were. Third point here, the fact that we get to consider it at all, and we get to ask this question at all, is a fucking gift. And this is why we work for ourselves. This is one of the biggest, the best reasons to work for yourself. One of the things that I see when people work for themselves is that they replace one shitty boss with another. They replace one shitty system with another. And that new shitty boss and that new shitty system is themselves. Right? They're doing things the same way that they've always been done, but they're like, at least I'm in charge now. And I'm like, make it better then. Make it better. Right? Again, a huge, huge, huge benefit of self-employment is that you actually get to consider and respect your capacity. Yes, I can force myself to fit into norms. I was seeing 24 people in a day, but it fucking sucked, and it still sucks. Right? I'm a very good test taker. I was great in school. I could fit myself into those boxes. But my preferred way of working is at home. Right? Why? Because I will work for like 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then my mind wanders. And I'm over here talking to my family about Damon and how he's the fucking worst. And Amond, also the fucking worst. Right? And then I go on Instagram or I go on Amazon, I go on Threads and, read some stupid shit on Threads. Threads, I can't. Right? And then I go back to work. I schedule breaks in between clients because that hour that I usually have for clients calls, it's a lot for me. It's a lot of time to focus. I get to batch and organize my days based on my capacity, which allows for task switching, but doesn't require energy switching. They are different. So I made it a point when I was writing this outline out to kind of highlight this and articulate this, because task switching, we talk about how it'll kill you, but it's really energy switching. So multitasking, in my opinion, or in science, is fake. Like you're just going back and forth. You're actually just task switching very fast, which for some people just kills them. Right. But for me, it's not the task switching. It's not, writing this down and then going and texting and writing this down and then going on Amazon that kills my time. It's when I have to try and be creative, and then I have to go and do more like executive tasks or admin tasks. And then I'm over here trying to be creative again. That kills me. Then I got to be client facing. Then I got to write email. That would kill me, right? Energy switching is where I lose time. So working at home, working for myself, I can schedule things as I want. And then I can respect my capacity, my work capacity, my energy capacity, and be like, I got 10 minutes at a time. And then I need a little break over here, and then I come back. Right? This is the most beautiful thing to me as it relates to self-employment. Right? The important thing to realize here, or an important thing to realize here, and understand and look at, and once again respect, is that capacity is individual, right? And it's subjective. Some folks simply have more capacity. Jill has tremendous capacity and capability. Right? I'm thinking about CrossFit, because my brain always goes to sport. When it comes to CrossFit, right, the goal is that your 80% capacity is somebody else's 110%, right? And you're constantly working at this 80%, and other people, they just can't keep up. They can't perform at that same level. When I was writing this out, I was kind of hesitant to use that analogy because I do want you to keep your eyes on your own paper, because capacity is individual and subjective, right? But I do still think that it's helpful to share this analogy, because I watch as folks should all over themselves, believing that they should be able to do more and they should be able to get more done in a certain amount of time because they're comparing themselves to others. And I just want to point out, it is different, right? You shouldn't be able to do more. That's what that person can do. Like, that is at the heart of sport, is that these inherent gifts that we get. And yes, you can train, you're working harder, but if you've ever played a high-level sport, you just get your ass kicked, you're like, yeah, they're just better than me. They can just live more. Yeah, you can work as fucking hard as you want, but there's an inherent just gift from the sports gods. Right? And that's what we're looking at here. Some people just have a bit more capacity, and that's fine. My goal with this episode is simply to highlight the fact that self-employment allows for capacity consideration. If your goal is to train and increase and improve your capacity, then that's on you, and that's fine. And that's outside of the scope of this episode. Right? My brain, once again, because it always does, goes to sport, right? And I'm thinking about when I started running marathons, and I remember training one day. I was out for a run, and I realized that I could just stop running if I wanted to. I didn't have to keep going. Because I could think back to a specific time when I was training. I'm a former D1 athlete, D1 soccer player. And you run a fucking lot as a midfielder. You run all the fucking time. I remember training, and I was meeting Casey McCann, who we were high school rivals, but then we ended up going to the same college, and so we trained together. I remember meeting her at the track to train for before preseason, and like just like dying on the track and being like, you can't stop running. I can't stop running. All right. Because with this, when you're an athlete, D1 athlete, like you're just like, I got to pass this test. I want to play. And so if these are things I want, I have to just keep going, irrespective of my capacity. Fuck my capacity. I have to improve my capacity. Right. So to be out on a run and just realize like, I could stop. I can respect my current capacity. I could walk. I could slow down. And then I can like pick up more later. It was so hugely eye-opening. Right? To me, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? But just for online business. You can stop for the day. Or you can break up that work as desired. Right? Or, just in general, if you zoom out, if you're a short, hard worker, you're like that intensity, you can do that. If you're a pacer and you're like, you know what, I like to work all day, just spread it out. You can do that. Right? Another thing with this is that your capacity probably will change over time, right? And you can lean into that. Right? Yes, you will still have to work, but you get to do it at your own pace. You get to respect your own capacity, which, yes, if we go back to the sports analogy, means that you might take longer than somebody else. It may take you 8 hours to finish that marathon and somebody else did it in 4. It doesn't matter. This is your race. You're on your own. And if we really look at it and relate it to online business, right? Online business is a long play game, and it favors those who just keep going, who keep showing up. To that end, those who lean into their capacity, right? And those who lean into capacity consideration and they work at a pace that is sustainable for them, they're honestly the ones that are setting themselves up for success. All right? All right. I'm going to wrap it up here because I ain't got anything else to say. As always, endlessly appreciative for every single one of you. Until next time, friends, Maestro